my one rant would be that we must learn now that the people who went to Eton can't run this country. Okay, they've done it, they've tried to do it, and this little small group who all went to the same school in the same class, it doesn't work. So I feel we need some working class people that have lived a real life, people that are in touch with what's going on in reality to maybe come to the front.
Tom Hardy, the man who brought us Venom, Mad Max and Bane. A Hollywood titan worth millions, but what you're about to hear will shake you to your core. Because behind closed doors, away from the cameras and the red carpets, Tom Hardy just went head to head with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And what was said in that room? It's explosive. This isn't some celebrity gossip. This isn't a publicity stunt. This is real. Phil, this is raw. And this could change everything you thought you knew about power, politics, and the people who claim to represent you. The establishment doesn't want you to know this. The mainstream media is scrambling to bury it. But the truth is out and it's spreading like wildfire. Buckle up, because what you're about to discover will leave you absolutely stunned. Let's rewind for a second. Tom Hardy isn't just an actor. He's a voice for the forgotten, the overlooked, the people who feel like they don't matter anymore. He grew up on the streets of East London, battled addiction, clawed his way out of darkness and became one of the most respected figures in entertainment. But here's the thing about Tom Hardy that the elites hate. He doesn't bow down. He doesn't play their game. He speaks his mind and he doesn't care who it offends. And that's exactly what landed him in a room with Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister who promised change but has delivered nothing but chaos. So what happened? Picture this. A private meeting, no cameras, no press. Just Tom Hardy, Keir Starmer and a handful of advisors who probably wish they'd never been there. The details are still emerging, but sources close to the situation have revealed something absolutely staggering. Tom Hardy didn't hold back. He went straight for the jugular. He confronted Starmer about the state of Britain, the crumbling NHS, the housing crisis that's left millions struggling to keep a roof over their heads, the cost of living that's crushing ordinary families while politicians live in luxury, and Starmer, he had no answers. None. He sat there squirming, deflecting, doing what politicians do best, talking in circles while saying absolutely nothing. But Tom Hardy wasn't having it. He pushed harder. He demanded answers. He asked the questions that every single person in this country has been asking. Why are our veterans sleeping on the streets while illegal immigrants get housed in 4-star hotels? Why are nurses using food banks while MPs get pay rises? Why are hardworking families being taxed into oblivion while billionaires pay less than their cleaners? And Starmer, he couldn't answer. He stuttered. He stumbled. He gave the same rehearsed politician nonsense that we've all heard a million times before. But Tom Hardy saw right through it. And he called him out right there to his face. Now, you might be wondering, why would Tom Hardy even be in a room with Keir Starmer? Here's what we know. Tom Hardy has been quietly working on veterans issues for years. He's a patron of several military charities. He's visited wounded soldiers. He's raised millions for those who served this country and were then abandoned by it. And recently he's been pushing for a meeting with government officials to demand better support for veterans. That meeting finally happened. But what was supposed to be a polite discussion turned into an absolute demolition because Tom Hardy came prepared. He brought facts. He brought stories. He brought the voices of the people this government has failed. And he wasn't about to let Starmer smooth talk his way out of it. The tension in that room must have been unbearable. Imagine it. Tom Hardy, a man who's faced down some of the toughest roles in cinema, staring down the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and Starmer, a man who's supposed to be leading this nation completely out of his depth. The advisors tried to intervene. They tried to steer the conversation back to safe territory. But Tom Hardy wasn't interested in safe. He was interested in truth. And the truth is ugly. The truth is that this government, like the one before it, has abandoned the people it's supposed to serve. And Tom Hardy made sure Starmer knew it. He made sure everyone in that room knew it. And now, thanks to leaks from inside that meeting, the whole country knows it too. But here's where this gets even more interesting, because what Tom Hardy said in that room wasn't just about veterans. It wasn't just about one issue. He went after everything. He exposed the entire rotten system. He talked about how politicians promise the world during elections and then disappear the moment they get into power. He talked about how the working class has been betrayed again and again and again. He talked about how people are working 2-3 jobs just to survive while the political elite lecture them about privilege. And Starmer sat there, unable to defend himself, unable to justify the failures, unable to explain why nothing ever changes, no matter who's in charge. The sources say Tom Hardy's voice was shaking, not with fear, with rage, with genuine raw emotion, because this isn't theoretical for him. He knows what it's like to struggle. He knows what it's like to feel abandoned by the system. He knows what it's like to fight for survival while the people in power pretend everything is fine. And he used that. He channeled every ounce of that experience and he unleashed it on Starmer. He told him that the people of Britain are suffering, that they're angry, that they're tired of being lied to, and that sooner or later there will be consequences, not threats, just facts, just the cold, hard reality, that when you ignore the people for long enough, they stop asking nicely. And what did Starmer do? He tried to play the sympathy card. He tried to say that these are difficult times, that tough decisions have to be made, that he's doing his best. The same pathetic excuses every failed politician uses when they're backed into a corner. But Tom Hardy wasn't buying it. He fired back immediately. He asked Starmer how much he earns. He asked him how much his mortgage is. He asked him if he's ever had to choose between heating his home or feeding his family. Silence. Total silence. Because Starmer couldn't answer those questions honestly without exposing just how disconnected he is from the reality that millions of Brits face every single day. But it gets worse for Starmer. Tom Hardy then brought up specific cases, real people, real stories. A veteran who lost both legs in Afghanistan and was told there's no housing available for him. A nurse with 20 years of service who's been forced to use a food bank because her wages haven't kept up with inflation. A young family evicted from their home while the building sits empty, owned by some foreign investor who's never even set foot in the country. These weren't abstract statistics. These were human beings. People with names, with families, with dreams that have been crushed by a system that doesn't care. And Tom Hardy made Starmer look at it, made him confront it, made him acknowledge the human cost of his government's failures. The advisors were panicking. You could feel it. This wasn't going according to plan. This wasn't the controlled, sanitised photo opportunity they'd hoped for. This was a reckoning. Tom Hardy had turned what was supposed to be a routine meeting into a full-blown interrogation. And the worst part for them, they couldn't stop it. They couldn't shut it down. Because Tom Hardy isn't some junior staffer they can intimidate. He's not some nobody they can threaten. He's one of the biggest stars in the world. And he was speaking truth to power in a way that terrified them. Because if someone like Tom Hardy is willing to stand up and call them out, what's stopping everyone else from doing the same? And then Tom Hardy went for the kill. He looked Starmer dead in the eye and asked him one simple question. Do you actually care about the people of this country, or are you just another politician playing the game? The room went silent, dead silent, because that question cuts to the heart of everything. That's the question every voter wants answered. That's the question that exposes the entire charade. And Starmer, he had no answer. He mumbled something about doing his job, about representing everyone, about making hard choices. Generic politician speak. Empty words from an empty suit, and Tom Hardy just stared at him. Let the silence hang there. Let Starmer's inadequacy speak for itself. It was brutal, it was uncomfortable, and it was exactly what needed to happen. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why hasn't this been all over the news? Why isn't every major outlet reporting on this explosive confrontation? And that's the real scandal here, because the mainstream media knows, they absolutely know, but they're not touching it. They're burying it. They're pretending it never happened. And why? Because Tom Hardy exposed something they desperately want to keep hidden. He exposed the fact that our leaders are frauds. that they have no answers, that they're completely detached from the struggles of ordinary people. And the media can't have that narrative spreading. They need you to believe that everything is under control, that the adults are in charge, that if you just keep quiet and trust the system, everything will be fine. But Tom Hardy has thrown a grenade into that comfortable lie, and people are starting to pay attention. Social media is on fire. Videos are being shared. Screenshots of messages from people who were there are circulating. The establishment can't contain this anymore. It's out there and it's spreading faster than they can suppress it. Ordinary Brits are waking up to the fact that someone finally said what they've all been thinking. Someone finally stood up to these politicians and demanded accountability. And it wasn't a career politician. It wasn't some talking head on television. It was Tom Hardy, a man who has nothing to gain and everything to lose by speaking out. But he did it anyway because some things are more important than protecting your career. The backlash from the establishment has been predictable. Unnamed sources are already briefing against Tom Hardy. They're calling him uninformed. They're saying he doesn't understand the complexities of governance. They're dismissing him as just another celebrity sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. Classic tactics. Attack the messenger. Ignore the message. But here's what they don't understand. People don't care if Tom Hardy has a degree in political science. They don't care if he's not an expert in economic policy. What they care about is that he's asking the questions they want answered. He's demanding the accountability they've been denied. He's refusing to let these politicians hide behind jargon and spin. And that terrifies them. Because once people realise they don't have to accept the excuses, everything changes. Once they understand that these politicians work for us, not the other way around, the whole game falls apart. Tom Hardy has reminded people of something crucial. Power comes from the bottom up, not the top down. Politicians only have authority because we give it to them. And when they betray that trust, when they fail in their duties, we have every right to hold them accountable. We have every right to demand better. We have every right to say enough is enough. And that's exactly what's starting to happen. People are energised. They're angry. But more importantly, they're mobilised. They're realising that change is possible if enough people stand up and demand it. The timing of this couldn't be worse for Starmer. His approval ratings are already in free fall. People are losing faith in his government faster than anyone predicted. The promises he made during the election campaign have evaporated. The change he pledged to deliver hasn't materialised. And now, Tom Hardy has publicly humiliated him in a way that no political opponent ever could. Because this wasn't a partisan attack. This wasn't about left versus right. This was about a human being confronting another human being about fundamental failures of leadership and compassion. And Starmer came up short, dramatically short, in front of witnesses who are now talking, in front of people who can't be silenced or bought off. The pressure on Starmer is mounting from all sides now. His own party members are starting to question his leadership. Backbenchers are muttering about whether he's the right person to lead them into the next election. The opposition is circling like sharks, smelling blood in the water. And the public? They're done with excuses. They're done with politicians who talk a good game but deliver nothing. Tom Hardy gave voice to that frustration in the most direct way possible. He didn't use diplomatic language. He didn't soften the blow. He told Starmer exactly what millions of people are thinking. You're failing us. You're letting us down. And we deserve better than this. What happens next is anyone's guess. Will Starmer try to hit back at Tom Hardy? Will he attempt some kind of damage control? Will his spin doctors work overtime to reframe the narrative and make this go away? They'll certainly try. But here's the problem. You can't put this genie back in the bottle. The cat's out of the bag. People have seen behind the curtain. They've witnessed a moment of genuine, unscripted truth in a world that's drowning in carefully managed lies. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Once you realise that the emperor has no clothes, all the PR in the world won't make you believe in the illusion again. Tom Hardy has done something remarkable. He's broken the spell, and the consequences of that are only just beginning. But let's talk about what this really means for Britain, because this isn't just about one confrontation between a celebrity and a politician. This is about a country at a crossroads. This is about people who have been pushed to the brink, who have been ignored and dismissed for far too long. Tom Hardy's clash with Starmer is a symptom of something much bigger. It's a sign that the old ways of doing politics are dying. The days when politicians could hide behind scripted speeches and controlled media appearances are over. The days when they could make promises they never intended to keep and face no real consequences are finished. People are demanding authenticity, they're demanding honesty, and they're demanding leaders who actually give a damn about their lives. Think about what Tom Hardy represents in this moment. He's successful, he's wealthy, he could easily stay in his lane, enjoy his fortune and never think about politics again, but he hasn't. He's used his platform to amplify voices that would otherwise never be heard. He's risked his reputation to stand up for people who have no power, no influence, no way to fight back against a system that's rigged against them. That's leadership. That's courage. And it stands in stark contrast to the cowardice we see from our elected officials every single day. Politicians who won't take a stand on anything controversial, who won't risk offending anyone, who care more about their careers than about doing what's right. Tom Hardy has shown them up completely, and the public is taking notice, not just in Britain, but around the world. Because what's happening here isn't unique to the UK. It's happening everywhere. Working people are being squeezed while the rich get richer. Public services are collapsing while politicians argue over nonsense. The gap between the ruling class and everyone else is getting wider every single day, and people are angry, they're furious, they're looking for someone, anyone, who will stand up and fight for them. Tom Hardy just became that someone for millions of Brits. He didn't ask for that role, he didn't campaign for it, but he's got it now. And the question is, what comes next? Will other public figures follow his example? Will more people with platforms start speaking out? The establishment is terrified of that possibility because they know that their power depends on maintaining the illusion of authority. It depends on people believing that politicians are somehow special, somehow more qualified, somehow deserving of deference and respect. But Tom Hardy just shattered that illusion. He walked into a room with the Prime Minister and treated him like any other person who's failing at their job. No reverence, no fear, just direct, honest confrontation. And Starmer had no defence. He couldn't hide behind his title. He couldn't rely on the usual tricks. He was exposed as just another politician out of his depth, unable to answer basic questions about why people are suffering while he collects his salary. The leaked details from that meeting keep getting worse for Starmer. New information is emerging every day. We're hearing that at one point Tom Hardy actually raised his voice, that he slammed his hand on the table, that he told Starmer he should be ashamed of himself. Can you imagine that? The Prime Minister being told he should be ashamed by someone who actually understands what struggle looks like, by someone who knows what it means to hit rock bottom and fight your way back, by someone who hasn't forgotten where he came from or the people he left behind. That's the difference. That's what separates someone like Tom Hardy from someone like Keir Starmer. One of them remembers what it's like to be powerless. The other has spent his entire career climbing the ladder, stepping on whoever he needed to step on to get to the top. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. Starmer's past is being scrutinised like never before. His record is being examined. His decisions are being questioned. People are asking what he's actually accomplished. What has he done to make life better for ordinary Brits? What tangible improvements can he point to? The answers are embarrassingly thin. He's good at talking, he's good at looking prime ministerial, but when it comes to actual results, to real change that improves real lives, there's nothing there. Just empty promises and excuses. Just more of the same failures we've seen from every government for the past few decades. And Tom Hardy called that out in the most public way possible. The final moments of that meeting are perhaps the most telling. According to sources, Tom Hardy stood up to leave and said something that's now becoming a rallying cry across social media. He looked at Starmer and said, the people of this country deserve leaders who actually lead, not managers, not bureaucrats, leaders who have the courage to do what's right, even when it's difficult. You're not that leader. And history